Washington, D.C. just shut down early, not for a summer break, but because a simmering battle over the truth about Jeffrey Epstein exploded, forcing Congress to halt its work. This wasn't some quiet summer recess. Just recently, House Speaker Mike Johnson made the really dramatic decision to send members home for a month-long break.
Yeah, a whole month.
And this effectively stalls crucial legislation. We're talking about things that matter to a lot of Americans, like increasing penalties for illegal migrants, maybe easing water infrastructure permitting, rolling back some Biden-era regulations.
All just paused.
Right. And this surprising move, it came amidst really intense Republican infighting, all over the public release of documents tied to the Jeffrey Epstein investigation. You've got many of President Donald Trump's supporters, influential conservative voices online, they're demanding a full accounting. They want these files public.
They feel let down, right?
Exactly. A deep sense of betrayal seems to be the feeling, especially after that recent Justice Department memo, the one that closed the case.
Yeah, the one denying the quote-unquote client list.
And denying any evidence of murder, stating firmly Epstein died by suicide back in 2019. So this isn't just like another political squabble.
No, it feels bigger.
It really does. It feels like a profound battle over who controls information, what powerful figures get to keep hidden, and honestly, the very trustworthiness of our government institutions. Today, we're taking a deep dive into the swirling controversy around the Epstein files. We want to examine the significant political fallout, the intense fight for transparency, and what this whole saga reveals about trust in our institutions.
And we've gathered insights from, a range of sources, AP News, Fox News, The Last Refuge, Times of India, trying to get different angles on this.
Our mission today is really to unpack these different viewpoints, try to uncover some maybe surprising facts from the sources, and consider why this particular story is causing such deep divisions, even within the same political party.
Okay, so let's dig into that House recess first. What's truly fascinating here, and definitely not your typical August break, is that House Speaker Johnson, he effectively lost control of the powerful House Rules Committee.
And that's key, right? For you, the listener, the Rules Committee, it's basically the gatekeeper.
Exactly. It decides which bills even get a vote on the House floor. And according to AP News sources, Republican members on that committee just abruptly halted proceedings.
Why? What were they trying to avoid?
They didn't want to risk more Democratic proposals pushing for the release of those Epstein files getting attached to other legislation. So, boom, they stalled those major bills we mentioned, immigration, water infrastructure, regulations.
Wow, so that's the immediate legislative cost of this internal fight.
Precisely. It shows clear turmoil among Republicans right within their own ranks.
So what are the clearest signs of this pressure? Who's really driving this demand for action on Epstein?
Well, you're seeing it from rank-and-file members, but also a really significant portion of President Trump's base. They are clamoring for a full release of these documents.
And it's not just inside the Beltway chatter.
No, definitely not. It's being amplified by powerful right-wing online influencers, and you hear it from voters back home. Representative Ralph Norman, a Republican from South Carolina, he put it pretty starkly. He said, "The public's not going to let this die," and rightfully so. So what's emerging here, it isn't just a political fight. It feels like a fundamental conflict over what transparency even means. Is it, the careful, methodical release of verified info?
Or is it something else?
Or is it that immediate, unfiltered public access that a really skeptical public is demanding right now?
That's a really powerful way to put it. So given this intense internal pressure, why is the Speaker, Mike Johnson, resisting this push? At least for the immediate release. What's his official line?
Well, according to AP News reporting, Johnson says he wants to give the White House space, his words, space to release the Epstein information on its own.
His argument being?
He asserts there's no purpose for the Congress to push an administration to do something they're already doing, which, raises its own questions.
Sure does.
And he also emphasized a moral responsibility to protect the innocent while still exposing the evil of Epstein. So he's suggesting a cautious, deliberate approach, trying to balance that transparency demand with maybe due process concerns, protecting people named who might not actually be implicated.
It's a tightrope walk, for sure. But then the plot thickens, doesn't it?
Right.
While all this is simmering in Congress, the Justice Department makes its move.
Right, under Attorney General Pam Bondi.
They attempt to officially close the Epstein case. What did their memo actually state, and why did that decision kind of blow up in their faces, fueling the exact controversy Johnson seemed to be trying to manage?
Well, the memo, as reported by places like the Times of India, it denied the existence of a client list,
Ah.
flat out, and denied evidence of murder, reiterating the official finding of suicide in 2019.
The idea was closure, presumably.
Presumably, but it did the opposite. It didn't calm the speculation at all. It actually inflamed it, particularly within conservative circles.
Oh, so
Well, you had commentators like Molly Hemingway, Tom Fitton, speaking on Fox News, publicly asking why the government seemed to walk back a full release after promises of transparency. They started suggesting that government agencies care more about, like, managing the narrative than actually revealing the information. And that perception, for a lot of people, just tanks their trust in official statements.
that's a really critical point, this idea of narrative management versus disclosure. But then you have figures like Alan Dershowitz, who seems to shift the blame, right, away from the administration itself.
Yeah, Dershowitz, cited in The Last Refuge, he argues it's not the Trump administration hiding information about Epstein. He points the finger at two judges in Manhattan.
Saying their hands are tied by judicial orders.
Essentially, yeah, that the administration can't disclose what judges have ordered sealed. Now, if you connect that to the bigger picture, this narrative isn't just skepticism. It shows how, when there's deep distrust, the absence of information can be just as powerful for building a story as the information itself.
How do you mean?
Well, some online commentators, again from The Last Refuge, they raise concerns that what they call the deep state, that idea of entrenched unelected officials, that they could have actually fabricated information. They suggest this whole list could be something manufactured by FBI and intelligence folks to compromise or threaten political enemies.
Wow, that's a heavy accusation. A psyop.
That's the term used, yeah. Potential psyop false narrative designed to mislead people, maybe discredit certain figures. Their argument is that any information released now might be tainted and previously doctored.
So it creates this situation where even if something is released, some people are already primed not to trust it.
Exactly. It allows pre-existing beliefs, pre-existing frameworks to fill that information vacuum.
And while those specific concerns, the deep state stuff, resonate deeply with a segment of the conservative base, it's interesting. The calls for transparency aren't just coming from one side, are they?
No, absolutely not. Democrats are definitely seizing this moment, too, making their own demands for disclosure, but framing it differently.
Like how?
Well, you have Representative Ro Khanna, Democrat from California. He framed it really sharply. He asked, it's about whose side are you on? Are you on the side of the rich and powerful protecting men? Or are you on the side of young girls and America's children?
So using it as a lever against perceived elite protection.
Right. It shows how both sides, despite political differences, are using this push for Epstein transparency just through different lenses and arguably for different political goals.
This whole controversy is clearly causing significant political fallout, especially, it seems, for former President Trump. Reports indicate he's increasingly frustrated that this Epstein issue just won't go away.
Yeah, and our sources, like the Times of India, show it's a real challenge to his established narrative. Remember, he spent years telling his followers he was the one who could take down the hidden elites, bring them to justice.
Right, that was a core part of his appeal.
And now, some of those loyal supporters, they feel, well, betrayed. They're struggling to reconcile his promises with the DOJ officially closing the case and this perceived lack of full transparency.
Is there evidence of that wavering?
Well, even prominent MAGA figures like Natalie Winters from Steve Bannon's War Room, she apparently expressed never seeing such sustained wavering within the base about Trump's commitment on this issue. Even his daughter-in-law, Lara Trump, said publicly something like, I do think that there needs to be more transparency on this.
That's significant. Coming from inside the family circle, it highlights the pressure.
Definitely. It's not just political gossip. It hits the unity and motivation of a key voting bloc.
And it's seen as a real vulnerability for him. I saw Elon Musk called Epstein Trump's Achilles heel on X.
Yeah, and Steve Bannon at that Turning Point USA conference, he issued a pretty stark warning. He said if just 10% of the MAGA base decides to sit out the 2026 midterms because of issues like this, Republicans could lose something like 40 House seats.
Wow. So real-world political consequences potentially tied to this narrative breakdown.
Absolutely. And this isn't just about election math, It goes deeper. It hits trust in government overall for everyone.
How so?
Well, our sources highlight some pretty damaging statements. For example, a former FBI deputy senior national intelligence officer, apparently confessed the FBI turned a blind eye in the Epstein case. That was reported by O'Keefe Media Group.
Turned a blind eye.
Yeah. And then you have Mike Benz's analysis suggesting the FBI is, quote, where evidence goes to die and acts as mop-up men for crimes of the state.
That's incredibly strong language.
It is. And when you put that alongside older comments, like Senator Rockefeller once saying intelligence agencies basically control what information gets released, it paints this picture where real transparency from these very compartmentalized agencies feels almost like an impossibility.
And that kind of information, especially coming from people with inside knowledge, it just has to erode public faith, right? And it
Right.
makes it incredibly difficult for you, the citizen, to figure out what's actually going on.
Absolutely.
And this isn't just being left to online chatter or commentary. Congress is still acting, right? The House Oversight Committee.
Yeah, chaired by Republican James Comer, they are actively investigating. They've issued subpoenas to some very big names: Bill and Hillary Clinton, former attorneys general, former FBI directors.
And there was that BBC News report about Bill Clinton's travel.
Right, citing flight logs showing he took, I think it was 4 trips on Epstein's private plane back in 2002, 2003, and visited his New York apartment, sometimes reportedly without his Secret Service detail.
So despite the DOJ closing its case, the political digging, the demand for answers, it's clearly far from over.
Seems that way, yes. The appetite is still strong.
So after this deep dive, looking at all these pieces, what do we make of this whole swirling mess? Is it really a genuine attempt to, protect the innocent while exposing evil, like Speaker Johnson suggests?
Or is it more of a strategic political maneuver about controlling the narrative, managing fallout?
Or does it signal something even deeper? Systemic issues within government agencies, a fundamental breakdown in public trust.
Well, this deep dive really shows us, I think, that the battle over information, especially when it touches powerful people and incredibly sensitive topics like human trafficking, it's just never simple, is it?
No.
The conflicting stories, the fighting within the Republican Party itself, these deep concerns about transparency, even coming from conservative circles, it all highlights how critical thinking, questioning assumptions, is just essential for you, the listener, to form your own understanding.
Yeah, you really have to look beyond the easy answers here.
You do understand the complex layers, the different motivations potentially at play.
So maybe the final thought to leave people with is this. In a world where information can be spun, hidden, maybe strategically released, where trust in institutions just seems to be eroding constantly, how can you truly discern the truth and hold power accountable, especially when government officials, political allies, even people supposedly on the same side, disagree so profoundly on what that truth even is?
Yeah.
And the very information we need seems increasingly suspect.
That's the multi-billion-dollar question, isn't it? How do you navigate that? It's a tough one.